This podcast is sponsored by Genelec. If you've ever been disappointed with the way your mixes sound on other playback systems, then check out Genelec's Unio monitoring ecosystem. By providing a seamless bridge between loudspeaker and headphone monitoring, Unio allows you to quickly create great-sounding mixes that translate consistently wherever you choose to work. No more guesswork, no more surprises. Just truthful, accurate audio monitoring from stereo to immersive. To find out more, visit genelec.com/unio, spelled UNIO. Your mixes will thank you for it.
Welcome to the Production Expert Podcast. I'm Ashea, and in this edition, I'm joined by Eloise Whitmore and Tony Churnside. Eloise has been working in radio for 20 years, and in 2013, she won the Radio Sound Designer and Producer of the Year award. She and Tony actually run Naked Productions, which is an incredibly successful sound design and storytelling production company with a lot of BBC radio programmes and other radio award-winning programmes under their belt. Tony is a multi-award-winning sound designer and technical producer behind the acclaimed satirical BBC Radio 4 comedy, The Skewer. I'm very excited to have them on the show. Eloise, you mentioned about Descript and AI, and I think that's a really interesting topic. So should we get into that for a bit?
So I think Descript is amazing in what it can do and how it's sped up certain areas. Obviously it transcribes so quickly, but recently I was working on a production, Saigon, for iHeart, which is a drama based around the events of Saigon. And I had a lot of recordings of Vietnamese actors talking Vietnamese, and I just threw it into Descript and it transcribed it for me to English. And then I could make sure I was putting the right words in at the right point in the drama. That side of it is fantastic. But there has been a change in the last 2 years that I've been trying to nail down where the issues are. So the amount of time that you used to spend working on a series used to be set in stone. It would take 3 days to 2 or 3 days to mix an episode. And for years and years and years, that didn't change. 2 days to mix a 30-minute feature. And I think, this is a personal opinion, but I think where the change has come is producers now can put together episodes in Descript. It then comes out of Descript to the sound designer a lot earlier than it used to be if producers were working the traditional way of listening to their audio, making notes about the best bits, maybe then going with a transcript and putting a script together, a Word doc together. But they really knew their audio. They knew their audio inside out. And the amount of time it takes to make a series now has really extended. These days, I will do 10 mixes of an episode in a series, whereas it used to be 3. And there seems to be something lost, as in we make an episode, we tear it apart, we remake it, we tear it apart, we remake it. And I'm beginning to wonder if the issue is that we're not working with raw audio anymore, we're working with words.
Right. And really interesting.
I think something is being lost around pulling your interview into Pro Tools, clipping all the bits up that you want, and then, grouping them, naming them, moving it around in Pro Tools till you've got the shape of the episode. I think it's something to do with working with words and not working with the raw audio where you're hearing intonation, you're hearing how the story is delivered. But the other issue that I'm finding is the new generation of producers that are coming through do not know how to pace audio, and that is and sound designers as well. We have new sound designers coming in. They can make the most amazing explosions, and they can create the most incredible sound design, but they don't know how to pace dialogue naturally.
I absolutely love this topic. And in fact, we were talking about this a lot. So this must be a real thing that's happening at the moment. I was talking with Tony. He's a very nice guy, and also an incredible musician and a teacher. And he's also observed that this sort of his students, a lot of the students, the younger generation don't, and I think it's from lack of practice, but they don't seem to have quite the same grasp of pacing, which is, I would say, the most important thing for, music and dialogue and pretty much everything that you listen to. I mean, because it doesn't, you listen to AI videos now, and it's so obvious they're made with AI because they don't have that natural human pacing, It's something that's intrinsic within us, and
Descript cannot pace. I'm sure at some point it will be able to. At the moment, it cannot. It takes out the gaps where maybe the mumbles. Maybe a politician is trying to find their words, and you want to hear that. You want the listener to hear that. You want the listener to know that he was fumbling around trying to find the right thing to say.
Exactly.
Or you have an interviewee who is telling a story about loss. She's lost someone, and all of those beats and all of those silences that speak 1,000 words are being lost. I take the Descript session, I pull it into Pro Tools, and thankfully you can pull out the audio, you can pull out the edits, but I'm constantly pulling out what's been taken out here, and I started at the BBC a long time ago in 1997, but my foundation for learning how to speech edit was hours and hours and hours of poetry programs, features, documentaries, where you just really learn the natural rhythm of speech. And if someone has an accent, that's a different rhythm. Someone who is Irish will speak at a different rhythm to someone who is English. And you learn that when you're working with speech audio day in, day out. And I really find that today's sound designers don't know how to pace, and the audio producers, seemingly that's being lost as well.
The Production Expert Podcast is made possible using the new Source Nexus suite from Source Elements, the professional way to collaborate over the internet, along with high-definition, low-latency audio and video. Need to record an interview or a podcast, or collaborate with others for songwriting, review and approval, remote editing, and more. With Source Nexus Suite, using any browser, you'll get studio-quality audio and video, along with custom-built tools for seamless integration with your DAW. Pricing starts at free. Get your account today at sourceelements.com.
Particularly with radio as well, a podcast, because literally we're listening and you're telling a story via the human ear. That's the only thing we have available to actually tell the story. And things like breaths and like you say, just like sort of, the stutter to express the story and to create emotion. You can't do that with just descriptive. And I suppose it's called Descript for a reason, right?
Yeah.
It's you get the description, but it's not all about the words in themselves. It's about the delivery, the intonation, like you were saying, And so what do you think we can do about it? Why do you think sound designers don't quite understand how important the rhythm of words are?
I think because we have the tools now to put a program together as if it's a Word document, and I think we're just losing that time where you're in the early days of your career, where you're just working with audio day in, day out, and you're really learning how. So in drama, a really good play, the writing comes first. It has to be really good writing. Secondly, it has to be a good performance. And then the sound design and the music and the effects should support all of that, but not overwhelm it. And
Yes.
the same with features. I think particularly if the producer who is putting the program together didn't do the raw interviews. So, there may be a team of people, and someone may have gone and collected the interviews, and someone else is actually shaping the scripts, but haven't heard the raw audio. I think I know you can listen to the raw audio in Descript, but I think for speed, people tend to just read the words. And so in answer to your question, I don't know what the answer is. But it's something that I've been mulling over for the last year because we've been trying to work out where the issue is.
I think another thing that feeds into this is if you could just open up Instagram or TikTok or whatever, all of the videos there are really, really short. And if it's someone talking to you, it's cut together, so they're finishing the first sentence after they start their second sentence, and it to my ears it sounds dreadful, but I guess to younger ears they're not as upset by it.
But also, they're not necessarily telling the same kind of. I suppose they're telling a story in a way, but there's a lot of visuals adding to it. But they're not telling the story like radio, and it's not like a drama, And it's quite a different experience, isn't it? Flicking through quick videos on reels on TikTok or Instagram than it is sitting there and immersing yourself in this sort of world of just fantasy, And I think you need things like breaths and dramatic pauses to actually make it believable.
I think it's about time as well because over
absolutely.
the years, I've had enough time to mix something. So if I'm making a feature, I'll put an edit together in Pro Tools. Before I've added any music, I will bounce out the MP3. I'll take the dog for a walk and I'll listen like a listener. And then when I'm listening, I can hear a different shape maybe, and I'll come back and I'll move it around in Pro Tools and I'll create a different shape, and then I'll do the same thing again. I'll bounce out an MP3. I'll take the dog for a walk. I'll have a listen. And I think because we're all working so hard to get things, to meet certain deadlines. I often don't get that chance anymore to just sit with what I'm making as a listener would. So I think there's time constraints.
The skewer, and other projects that I do, like Dead Ringers and The Naked Week, where you're making a half an hour program, you don't have time. Like quite often, John and I, when we're making that, we'll have to go, okay, we've got to do a tech listen to make sure there are no dropouts or horrible distortion noises on this before we send it to Radio 4. I'll listen to the first 15 minutes. You listen to the second 16 minutes, because we don't have half an hour between now and when it has to be delivered.
And the thing that I've really learned over the years is the first pass of anything will always be too fast. It's just the way that you mix, and then you take it out for a walk. You take your program out for a walk, and when I come back, I've got a notes document on my phone that's say add beat here, beats. It's constantly about letting the information land and settle. So I'm not sure if that's being taught to a younger generation as well, that your first pass will always be too fast, whether it's drama or documentary.
So that's interesting. And I think a lot of it comes down to the dreaded B word, which is budgets, I suppose.
Yes.
Have you noticed, certainly in music, we've noticed a decline in budgets. Is it the same with radio?
There's not a decline, but everything is taking longer, and the money hasn't changed. So what used to take 3 days per episode might now take 5 days per episode, but you're only paid for 3 days per episode. Studio prices are going up because electricity prices are going up. So budgets are really, really tight these days. But everything does seem to be taking longer as well.
Can you expand on that then? The reason why you think it's taking longer that we haven't covered?
I think the other thing is when it's series, there's more likely to be, when you're making a series, there's more likely to be a team of people, which means there's more cooks making decisions. So there's more opinions. So you maybe before I'd be trying to please one client, but now I'm trying to please a team of people. So that all takes longer. What else takes longer? I think we've really noticed a difference in series, the length of time a series is taking. Drama still takes the same amount of time, apart from when we have to do a Dolby mix. So the BBC still requires stereo, so that's fine. Audible and iHeart more often than not would like a Dolby mix, which does take longer, but their budgets do recognise that.
And so there's more teamwork than before then.
Yeah, I think so as a company we have we're probably a third commissions and 2/3 working as sound designers for other people. And previously we made a lot more one-off docs, and now we're making a lot more series. So previously we'd be working directly with one producer, whereas now we tend to work more with teams, don't we?
Yeah, and doing things at scale, you can normally reduce the price. You know, if you're making multi episodes, you can try and be more efficient with the recording time, the studio time, the actors' time. So that does help. I think. I mean, this is very much probably more me than Eloise, but I've worked with John Holmes so long now that we're completely on the same wavelength, and that absolutely speeds things up massively because you trust each other. And now, you know, I'll mix things for him, and there'll be a couple of notes here and there. We don't have to remake. Although that said, because of the time constraints, we wouldn't have had the time constraints. We wouldn't have had time to do much of that anyway, because we've got to deliver it so quickly. It's such fast turnaround.
Yeah, and that you make a really good point about trust and how important it is to make great work.
Yeah, and I think that comes with time working with the same person, and we're just lucky that the show's done so well. It's been recommissioned and recommissioned, and John is actually, you know, he's making other things like The Naked Week and Dead Ringers, and that trust kind of follows through into those types of programs as well.
This podcast is sponsored by Genelec. If you've ever been disappointed with the way your mixes sound on other playback systems, then check out Genelec's Unio monitoring ecosystem. By providing a seamless bridge between loudspeaker and headphone monitoring, Unio allows you to quickly create great-sounding mixes that translate consistently wherever you choose to work. No more guesswork, no more surprises. Just truthful, accurate audio monitoring from stereo to immersive. To find out more, visit genelec.com/Unio, spelled UNIO. Your mixes will thank you for it.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Do you want to mention anything about the sound acoustics and things like that, or anything else that you think would be interesting?
What could I say about that? I could say that. Let me say something about some of the AI tools that are around. You know, like things like I don't want to isolate any in particular, but Adobe, what's it called? Adobe Enhance and Descript Studio Sound, and some of these ones that use AI to and they can be lifesavers, but I can so hear when they've been used, and it puts me off, and it sterilizes things quite a lot, and I think people are using them too much. There you go. That's my that's my unpopular opinion.
Well, you know, you're preaching to the choir here, because I completely agree. You know, I think most of our listeners will completely agree.
We always ask for, when we're at the beginning of a project, we always say to the people we're working with, we want everything raw. Raw. You know, don't be treating anything. We want to hear it first. I think things like Adobe Enhance, they, as Tony says, they can be lifesavers. And, you know, if you've got a terrible Skype call, I had one recently in a program where I can't remember where the person was. She was in the middle of nowhere, and the signal was terrible and the call was terrible. But she said some really important things, and we've managed to use short clips by using Adobe Enhance. But I would hate to use that, you know, for the whole of the program. And you do lose some of the characteristics. You do lose a lot of the characteristics of the voice. So I think all these AI tools are good supportive tools, but they shouldn't be your go-to. You should try and fix your raw audio first. So, in fact, no, just get good audio in the first place.
Exactly. It's supposed to be a sort of backup plan and an assistant rather than, you know, like you say, the go-to thing.
And I think my advice for wannabe sound designers is build your own sound library. Don't rely on things that you can rip off YouTube, or free sound libraries that you might have access to. You know, your particular sound design will have a sound to it if you build your own sound libraries. So just carry around a H4n. I'm having another menopause moment. Who makes a H4n? Zoom, thank you. So like the Sony D100 or the Zoom H4n, I've always got one of them in my bag, because you never know when you're going to be somewhere with a really interesting sound, be it on a tram or at the beach or at an airport. So I'm constantly collecting my own, you know, building my own sound library so that your sound sounds very different to everybody else's.
I've just got visions of you sort of in all sorts of amazing locations, just whipping out your mic to record some Foley.
Yes, fantastic. That's me.
What about you, Tony?
What's the question?
You can't blame the menopause.
Male menopause.
Yeah.
I can blame the heat, I think, probably.
Yeah.
I think there's the you need to balance how much time you spend messing around in a studio, which is how you learn how to do it, and you obviously have to do that. But also, if you just do that, you're not going to get anywhere. You need to go out there and talk to people and meet people as well. So it's a balance of those two things. And actually the whole talking to people and meeting people and networking is as important as being able to operate a DAW really well.
And the topic of networking as well, because I remember when I used to think about networking and I thought, oh, I hate it. It's all sort of like, networking sounds really sort of dull and awful, but it's not. It's just, you know, when you meet like-minded people, you realize networking just sort of happens naturally, and it's fun, and it's just putting yourself out there. You naturally network.
Yeah, I think it's not calling it networking is quite helpful. Not thinking of it as networking is quite helpful. I've got friends. We've got friends who are like who are what's the word, that they're like laser focused when it comes to networking, and we'll go to an event, we'll go to like an awards do, or, you know, like a podcasting event or something, and they will be laser focused in their set of objectives of who it is they want to meet and what they want to say to them, and they will work that room. And it amazes me how they do that, because I can't do that. I've never been able to do that. But I can talk to people, and I think that's the main thing. Just go and chat to people and think about what you can offer them rather than what you can get out of them. Yeah,
really good point. Very good. So anything you'd like to add about the future for Naked Productions? Anything exciting coming up?
We are currently making a big drama for Audible, which we can't talk about other than that because we've all signed NDAs. We are in the mixing stage, and I am really impressed. I've just switched my Altiverb from stereo to Dolby, so or rather, I'm using it as surround Altiverb at the moment instead of stereo, and I'm loving Altiverb even more now. And we have we just have a nice stream of features to make, don't we? Features, documentaries. We really love to do one project a year with a client like Commonwealth War Graves or National Trust. We've just worked with Abbeydale Industrial Hamlet in Sheffield. That was a really lovely project, bringing the sound of the machinery to life.
Cool.
So the sound of the machinery plays on speakers in the actual museum, so people can hear how loud it actually was.
Wow.
So we like working on projects like that. But I think we're really lucky because in radio and audio, you get to do every job. You get to record, you get to do a speech edit, you get to sound design, you get to compose. Occasionally I get to work with Skywalker Sound on projects, and they're always amazed that there's just little me doing absolutely everything. But I think it's a really good way of learning Pro Tools inside out.
Yeah.
And realising that each element comes with different skills. But I think number one advice is, if you want to work in radio, is record a long interview and then mix it. Learn about pacing and learn about how to edit speech properly, and don't rely on Descript to do it for you.
Yeah. Learn how to listen.
Yes.
I think. Yeah. Fantastic. There's so many fantastic points and a really interesting conversation. Tony, is there anything else that you'd like to add, or should we just head off and go and get some cool air?
Yeah, cool air and a glass of water, I think would be nice.
Brilliant. That's all we have time for, but thank you very much to Eloise and Tony, and we'll be back next time for another edition of the Production Expert podcast.